Good morning, and thank you for downloading another episode of Stage Door, a theater podcast hosted by a couple of regular guys. We have Joe Barton today with 3B Productions, but we have a photo shoot going on behind us at the same time. And this guy knows everybody. So, of course, he's here. This photo shoot is for a theater show. And, of course, there's somebody here he knows.
How are you, sweetie?
Come on in and say hi to him before we start.
Come say hi.
Hi. Good to see you. I feel like I know every kid in Toledo.
All right. That's why we're having you on.
You know every kid in Toledo.
I swear. I think I know every kid in Toledo that does theater.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Obviously, you don't know.
I mean, of course,
that's football players.
That's an overstatement, but
well, let's add the kids who aren't from Toledo into the mix, and then you do know all the people in Toledo probably. Because if you start adding up all the Anthony Waynes, you start adding up all the Swantons and the Oregons and
Bowling
everybody,
Greens.
the Bowling Greens. It's gonna Perrysburg. It's gonna add up real quick. How many kids do you think you know?
oh gosh.
Yeah, you've done how many summer shows?
Well,
now?
it depends on what we're quantifying as kids, because I think of them as kids forever.
Yeah.
Right.
Even when they're married and having children, they're still my kids. But I don't know. Gosh, currently, I probably would say probably a good 200 kids probably around the area.
Currently, just 200. I think it's bigger than that, dude. There's
I mean,
no way that's only two. You
I don't know if
80 in
once they graduate and move on. I don't know if they're just young adults then, or I don't know.
But you probably have 80 in one show last summer. So how are you going to say only 200?
I know.
So if you add up all the summers and all the everythings, and then you have the alumni who are still in the area that.
Well, it's like Tyler. Was one of my kids, but now he's a young man.
Yeah. How old is Tyler?
27.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, he's 27.
And he started with me when he was probably 11 or 12 when he did that.
Sixth grade.
Yeah.
Wow, good guess. 11,
Yeah. 12.
Perfect. Right on. See, there's the fact that you know these kids still. Like you can pinpoint when they started with you. Like
Now now one of your kids is now it was still one of my kids, but one of your kids is now in college.
Yeah.
So is she still a kid? Of course, she'll still be a kid.
Right. Yeah. I mean, not technically, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't matter when they're. Yeah, like you said, you just call them kids forever because they are. They're your kids.
Yeah.
They're your children. That's one of the good things and what brought me to you, obviously, because Ron said, "Hey, your little guy. He likes to do these things. If he likes doing these things, you should go see this show." By 3B, and right away I was like, "Well, that's a dumb name."
Yeah.
3B what? I mean, what is that? I don't even understand. What
3B
that means.
Productions.
Right. So what? So you were directing high school shows, and then that wasn't enough for you. You needed more.
Well, actually, I started in community theater.
Okay.
I started doing shows, and I was kind of a vagabond when I first left. I was in school early 90s. And when I left school, pretty much one of the first things I did is I started...
High school or college?
College, I should say.
So 91, 92?
This was probably 93.
Okay, because I graduated in 91. I'm just trying to age you here.
Yeah, I'm 50. I'm 51 this year. I graduated in 89, but when I left BG in 93, I started doing shows with Waterville Play Shop. And then... which then I had started to get introduced to other people around the area. And then I did stuff with Black Swamp Players, Oregon Community Theater, Village Players, and Toledo Rep.
Yeah, you were a little theater slut, weren't you?
I was. I was. Whoever would take me.
Yeah.
No, and it was fun, and that's where I kind of built up a lot of friends that I still to this day. And I got to work with some really great people before they moved on either from Toledo or moved on in life.
Gotcha.
Because if you have passed on, but, I worked with a lot of great people, and I kind of think that's where I learned a lot about theaters. Obviously I did a lot in college, but I think I learned more by just working with so many amazing directors and choreographers early who, showed me what to do, and sometimes it's not what to do.
Yeah.
So what to do and what not to do.
Exactly.
There we go. That's what we were trying to get at.
What not to do.
Yeah, and that's that's more important sometimes than what to do, right? Is
Yes.
that what you're saying?
My biggest one was time waste. I never wanted to waste anyone's time. and your kids have been in it, you've been in them. Like I try to keep things really fast and keep going, and then if you're not needed at a rehearsal, I either don't have you come or I try to get you done quickly so that you can leave, go home, and mow the lawn or whatever you have to do. But because
my kids were little. My kids were little when they first started doing shows at 3B with you.
Oh yeah, they were tiny.
Yeah, and I still remember one of the things you would do, obviously, is you'd group the kids together on days. But not only would you do that, you would also, hey, we're going to get the kids out of the way and they can go home.
Yep.
They can go home and they can do their homework and they can have other stuff going on. Unless you're a lead little kid, then you don't get to go home. But usually you would try. So
yeah, I mean, as much as I can. I know when you get to running the show, that's where you feel like you have a lot of downtime.
Right. Well, you have to be there though. You have to. They also, everybody needs to know when they're on stage.
Right.
Get in there. Get in when you call to get out there. Yeah.
Because I mean, when I first was doing shows, I was working like 2 jobs, so I was working a lot, and so for me, my time was super like tight. And for me to be like called to a rehearsal and then be there for 3 hours and only be used for 10 minutes, that would really piss me off.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I will never do this to people. I would never do this to anyone.
So is that when you were 16 doing shows, or was that when you were 20?
I was in my early 20s.
Okay, you didn't start until you were in your early 20s doing theater stuff?
To be honest with you, I grew. Well, you're a Lakota people.
Yes,
guy.
I am.
I was an Otsego guy.
Aha.
And
the Black Knights.
Yes, and we didn't have a lot of opportunity for community theater.
Cornfields.
I mean, Waterville Play Shop is obviously really close to where I grew up, but
not really close. I mean, what's that a drive? I mean,
it was only probably about a 10-minute drive from my house.
Is it that? I didn't realize. Okay,
but to be honest with you, it could have been a million miles away because I just didn't know about it. Our town, I grew up in Grand Rapids, Ohio, tiny little Grand Rapids, and our town hall did a show every summer, and they called it the Town Hall Theater, something like that. It's now defunct, but they have a little vaudevillian opera house in Grand Rapids.
When did it go under? Because they used to do stuff.
It's still there. Nobody does shows there anymore.
Because I know in my experience of doing it in here, they were doing some shows still. Somebody was.
Yep. And people still use it occasionally. With 3B, we've never used it. Waterville Play Shop has used it occasionally. It's a really cute little theater. It's really fun. And I did a ton of shows there. So it was fun to do this, what we always called it, the summer musical. And it was really fun, and I got to do a lot of great roles. It's like summer stock theater where you do like, a little show here and a little show here, except, you were just stuck in Grand Rapids. And way back in the 90s when I was doing this, there was no air conditioning. So
how do you do a little show here and a little show there, but you're only doing a little show here and a little show there in Grand Rapids? That confuses me. What do you mean?
Well, like in summer stock, like sometimes when you do summer stock shows, you're doing them in little theaters all over the place.
Oh.
So
that's the only comparison, is that it's a little theater?
That's the only comparison. Because I certainly wasn't paid, or
Okay.
I certainly, but we didn't have air conditioning back. Well, there was air conditioning was invented, but
dude, I worked at Cedar Point in 1991.
No
and
air.
no AC, and I was dying all the time. But it didn't stop me from having somebody else in there with me.
Yeah, it was the worst. And like the one year, like we did Fiddler on the Roof, and we're all like, it's like July, and we're all in like winter coats and scarves and hats.
Oh my gosh.
Just like sweating and everything.
Oh my gosh. See, I don't think about stuff like that. You have the costuming that you have to have.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy.
Do Elf the musical, and you have to have all your winter coats on in the middle of the summertime.
So you're doing theater all over now and learning.
I'm
then
theater everywhere and learning. Yep.
Was Springfield your first?
Well, so Springfield was my first.
His first love, probably.
Well, I started directing for Waterville Play Shop.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Before
and I directed
Springfield.
Before Springfield, and had directed like I don't know.
Well, how'd you get that, may I ask?
Yeah.
You just showed up being a director?
Said, I'm going
to do that.
Back in the day with Waterville Play Shop, and I don't know if it's this way anymore. Back in the day, you had to assistant direct shows with one of their veteran directors, and I worked a lot with Sam Macera. Okay. And in fact, the very first show I ever did with Sam was South Pacific, and I was actually called because they didn't have enough guys to be sailor. Imagine that, community theater, not enough men.
Right.
But they knew I had done it with BG. Bowling Green State University had done South Pacific, and I was believe it or not, I was a dancer and chorus person.
I believe it. I mean,
believe it.
Absolutely.
And
nimble feet. I see you out there dancing around. No problem.
so when I was, like 150 pounds soaking wet as well.
Yes.
So he called and he was like, my name is Sam Sarah. I'm from I'm from Waterville Play Shop. I understand you're home for the summer. Would you be interested in being in our show? And, at that time I was just waiting tables. So I was like, sure, sounds like fun, and they had about 3 weeks to go before they opened.
3 weeks and he called you?
Yeah. But I knew the show. So I was like, I can just step in and do the show,
But it's crazy. What did they lose some guys? Or
I
what?
think they were having problems keeping men.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, this theater was no air conditioning. So it was so hot and everything. So anyways, I walk in the door and I introduce myself and he goes, by the way, can you also do my choreography?
Oh my God.
I was like, I can teach them what I know.
Story has it you were a cheerleader once.
So I was cheerleader BG. Yep.
Yeah, cheerleader.
What? This is new information.
Yeah. So that's kind of like dancing and choreography.
Well, I danced in BG shows and BG operas. I danced in those. And I did choreograph long time ago. I don't try to do that anymore. But I used to choreograph on shows. And so that's how I started. So I started out as Sam's choreographer for South Pacific. And then he was like, for the next show that we did with Waterville Play Shop, he asked me to be his assistant director. So I was his assistant director for like 5 straight years. And then after that, I finally was like, I'm ready to take the jump.
5 summer shows, basically, right?
Well, and this was stuff during the Waterville Play Shop season 2. So it was like a winter show, a fall show, a spring show.
5 years? So what is that, like 20 shows?
Well, yeah, probably right around there.
You assisted 20 times?
Or choreographed or both.
Oh my God,
yeah.
you have way more patience than me. I'd be like, one and done, man. Let's do this shit. I
didn't know if I wanted.
Awesome. I want to be the man now.
I didn't know if I wanted to direct.
Oh, okay.
But I found myself, and this is terrible. I found myself behind the scenes, just fixing things and telling people what to do, and telling people where to go.
You were directing.
I was directing backstage, and so like Sam would be like, "Joe, just fix this," or he'd be like, Joe's going to fix this. And I'd be like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to fix this. So I have to go out there and go, okay, you guys go here, you move here. We're going to move you guys. You're going to walk in a clump like this and blah, blah, blah. So anyways, then they were doing, and I wanted to start out small. So the very first show I ever directed for Waterville was Nonsense.
That's small? That's only how many?
It's 5 nuns.
Yeah.
Like 5 nuns. It was
wonderful. So you just had to find 5 superstars.
I did. I had 5 wonderful people. And that's where I met Aaron Upman, who is Aaron now Bernal, who used to run the theater program at the Springfield Middle School.
Not at Upman Theater?
And she works with Ward now at St. Francis.
Oh, nice.
But anyways, now, we're lifelong friends. But, she came in and auditioned, and she's like, I'm a tap dancer. And, we needed 1 tap dancer for the show. And I'm like, you're cast. You win. Luckily, she also can sing. She's an amazing vocalist, an amazing actress. So, but from Nonsense, then I directed quite a few shows then for Play Shop, and then I was approached by my friend Jenny Kriegel, who we went to high school together, and she was Jenny Limes then. And Jenny Kriegel worked at Springfield, and she said, hey, I know you direct shows. Springfield just lost their director to their show. Would you consider going and applying for it? And I was like, I don't know. I'm so used to working community theater where, I can, it's not as, as much.
I really hate kids.
I know. I like kids. I
know
I
you
work
do.
with kids.
I just think it's funny, though.
So
you're great with kids.
And this was like 2000?
This was, right around 2000. 99, I think, is when I started.
Okay.
And so I went in and I had Susie Short and Liz Keller was principal at the time, and Jan Shire. There was like 4 women, Dana Gloden, all teachers or people that had kids in the program. And I went in and I interviewed them. At the end of the interview, they're like, well, by the way, you're hired. So,
nice.
And they're like, you're starting now. Because it was 2 weeks into the school season. And so that's how it started. And I was there for 11 years.
So they're like, we need
11
somebody.
years.
Yeah, so we need somebody.
And
I know this person. Let's bring him in. They sit down and they're like, oh, yeah, he knows what the hell he's doing. Let's
so
have him right
you
now.
walk in the door, and what show did you pick? that
the very first show we did it's a melodrama, and it's called Love Rides the Rails.
Did you pick that, or was it already
I picked
picked?
it because I had done it with Waterville Play Shop.
Oh,
okay.
And see, at Springfield, there used to be a rule: you had to do a play in the fall and a musical in the spring.
always a play. Love Rides the Rail.
And so the one play that I wanted to do was called.
I've never heard of Love Sounds. It just sounds like it'd be a rock star.
I wanted to do a play
Rides the
called.
Rail.
Oh, it's a Ken Ludwig play, and I can't remember the name of it.
Don't
But I
ask
wanted-
us.
Yeah, what? I never
What?
heard of Love
Don't
Rides
ask us.
the Rail. I can hardly even say
Who?
Love Rides the Rail.
Well, I
It's a
want to do
tongue
this
twister.
play that Ken Ludwig had written, but the principal, Mrs. Keller, at the time, she's like, "Oh, that seems a little racy for Springfield."
But you don't know what it was?
I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, damn.
You know, but Perrysburg High School had just did it, and I just costumed it for them. But of course, I can't remember what it is. But anyway,
Like recently did it?
yeah, they just
But for
recently did it.
1993, it was too racy?
It
Or
was. I think it was
1999?
Rob's
Sorry.
last. Maybe it was Rob Gentry's last play or second to the last play.
He said, screw it, I'm just doing this. Okay. Yeah.
What are they going to fire
Yeah,
me?
they fire me.
Well, Perrysburg, they do a lot of.
Okay.
You know, Perrysburg, he can. Rob could get away with
He could
anything.
get away with
Perrysburg.
anything.
He was well established. Exactly.
Well, he's a god in this.
Yeah.
in
We've
the
heard.
high school theater area.
We've heard.
Oh, so we should have him on?
Oh, you should
Oh,
definitely
we
get
should.
Rob
Oh,
Gentry. He's
yeah.
amazing.
Rob Gentry. Remember that name, Rob?
So, Rob Gentry,
What? Gentry, that's the last
Perrysburg,
name.
Jordan talked
just
about
kidding.
him.
Yeah, we're trying to get a hold of him eventually.
Yeah.
Oh, and he has kids on Broadway.
Oh,
and
really?
I mean, he's amazing.
Okay. Keep going now. We want to hear more.
Yeah. So, Springfield, 11 years.
11 years. Yep.
Wow.
You,
wow.
So you were
And
in
then, well,
community theater. and
the
you
kids.
directed-
I had a hard time even getting enough kids to do Love Rides the Rail.
Well, yeah.
And you know, we then that spring we did Anything Goes, and I had like 80 kids audition.
Wow.
And I was like,
where'd they come from?
I know. I was like, where are all these kids coming from? So the kids are like, they're like, oh, plays are boring. We'd rather do musicals. And I'm
Right.
like, well, I would rather do musicals too. So I went to the principal, with Mrs. Keller, and I said, I know the pay is different for a musical than a play, but I said, I don't really care so much about the money. I would rather do something the kids want to do. And so in my second year then, because I got rehired, the funny thing about Springfield, this is a funny caveat, is I got fired and hired every year. Like at the end of the year, I was always on a 1-year contract, but I was always rehired with my what do you call that? Your years of experience.
Oh, okay.
Tenure.
Yeah, whatever. So anywho,
That's why they fired you? So they only had to pay you 1 year salary
Yeah,
every
yeah.
time?
well, they pay you 1 year salary, and then you're quote unquote fired. Then you're rehired with your experience.
Oh, so you did
And-
get 10 years
yeah.
experience at the end. Oh, okay. Not 1 year. They didn't do that just to keeping your pay down.
So yeah, and so after that, I did.
nice
Then
you
I did
even got paid.
two musicals a year. Then for the next 10 years,
You had
2 musicals a year.
you had some stars in some of those years. You had some big names.
Oh my gosh, I had so much.
People
amazing,
go on to big things too.
Yeah, amazing talent. Yeah, Melissa. Well, she's Melissa Toth now, but
Yeah, Toth.
Melissa Grahowski.
Grahowski, yes.
Patrick Toth, her brother-in-law Patrick, who's out in L.A. Anisha Arusamili, who's out in L.A. working. Gosh, who else? Your son, who's now at North Carolina. He runs. Tyler is running a theater.
Backstage directing, running a
he's
theater
down there, and Chad Campbell's been on national tour.
Yes,
lives in New York.
Was
Liz Romy.
Liz Romy? She's
She's
singing.
been all over.
She's-
Brian Carlucci's traveled
Brian
the world
Carlucci. Yes.
and doing theater and cruise ships.
Natalie Ceserbio is one you've directed before.
Was one of
also.
them? Did Cats Taplin?
But not
was,
it- not
was
it.
there
That
a
was community
Taplin
as a
in
director.
there? But
Who's that?
Taplin.
Emily Taplin.
Emily
Yep, I had
Taplin.
Emily
These
Taplin.
are all Springfield?
Yep.
Look at this. See, this is what I'm talking about. We had so much talent in this area.
Now, somewhere in the middle of Springfield, you started something new.
Yeah.
So in 2005, so I'd been at Springfield for 5 years, about then. In 2005, myself and then Gary Buerk and Jesse Bernal, the last names are all B's, we decided to kind of break from Waterville Play Shop because we wanted to do some newer stuff. And Play Shop at the time, because Play Shop has changed since then, Play Shop at the time was very much like very traditional musicals and traditional shows. And we want to do some of the newer stuff. So we broke with Waterville Play Shop and we formed 3B Productions and we started doing our shows.
3B.
And then,
Never heard of it. Have you?
yeah, 3B.
No. 3B.
And now we're in year 16.
Wow. Right in the middle of Springfield, you're directing Springfield,
So
but also
2 year at Springfield, and then I was directing at that time 3B. We did 2 shows a year, and usually it was a spring show and a summer show where we had kids. So I was doing kids. I was working with kids fall, spring, and summer.
Jeez.
So you said you three broke away. So all three of you were doing stuff with Waterville?
Yeah, we were all actually on the board.
Oh.
And we all kind of took our time, but one at a time, all three of us resigned from the board. There was some inner politics going on. I don't want to go on about that, and it was better to leave and start something new rather than to stay where I was unhappy.
Right.
Right. Because I didn't want to stay there. And
Well, what was the show, or what were the shows that you had to do that you were like, why isn't Waterville doing these?
well, I wanted to do there were a lot of new shows coming out at that time, and Waterville just was too scared to do them at the time. Now it's completely different. They do all kinds of fun shows.
Yeah, they do a lot of new shows. Exactly. They're doing SpongeBob apparently.
They spam a lot.
Brand new.
Yeah. But we wanted to do I really wanted to do Civil War really badly, which is a lot of people don't even know that show, but it's a beautiful, beautiful show. And it's vignettes and letters that people wrote to each other in the Civil War, and they put it into musical form. And so it's not really there's not a through storyline, but it's a lot of vignettes and stories. And so we started with the Civil War, and we decided to join OCTA at the same time. And the very first time 3B entered the OCTA Northwest competition was the Civil War, we asked to state. So
And
we were kind of like, this is
that's
pretty
a
good.
whole nother podcast. That's a different-
But why wouldn't they want to do Civil War? What was so racy about that one?
I don't know.
Or was
If
it
I had
just
the
not a
magic answer, I wish I
moneymaker?
could tell you.
Not a money
They
maker.
they like to do what quote unquote like family shows, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. Well, no, they were on.
They wanted to do like Charlotte's Web
and
and
Bye Bye Birdies and
Bye Bye Birdie and Charlotte's Web and and I have nothing against these shows.
Right.
It's just
I
just
still
thought,
don't understand Civil War not fitting in though. I guess that maybe that seems like a duh that they would do that still. But is it racy? Is it that?
No, but I think it deals
You're not
with
doing Spring Awakening.
it deals with slavery, and I don't think that was something they wanted to deal with because obviously Civil War, half my cast were African Americans, and then it dealt with slavery and
reality.
Yeah.
It's too real for them.
There's a song where someone's dying on the battlefield, and I don't at that time. This is in the early 2000s.
Right.
I just don't know if Waterville wanted to go in that direction.
Yeah.
So no Les Mis with a bunch of horse.
Right.
That wasn't
right.
going to happen. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, in the meantime, you do a play at Springfield, Wizard of Oz, 2005.
Yes.
Changed the destiny of my life and my family. You have been a huge influence on my direction of my life and why
We're
I'm
all
sitting
gonna
here.
gush all over
why
Joe
we're
right
sitting
now,
here
yeah.
right now is
Yeah.
because of that Wizard of Oz in 2005. You hired my daughter,
Wow.
Springfield student, to be.
Well, I had seen your daughter because I judged Springfield's talent show,
She did
and she did Irish step dancing.
Yes.
And I was like, she's really good. And so I was like, I really wanted her to be part of our show. And so I asked her to come in and dance and do the tornado. Because she was like, I don't sing. I'm not a singer. And I was like, it doesn't matter. You can be a dancer, though, because and we featured her as the tornado.
She was the tornado. She dressed up like a tornado.
She was a whirling tornado.
Yeah,
She was.
Did she have like debris stuck to her?
Yeah.
Or?
It was kind of like the material was like sequiny camouflage.
all ripped
Look
apart.
at
It was all
what
ripped
year
apart.
was this? Joe's got all
Yeah.
these details from 35 years ago.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I was never a fan of the hat that the
Yeah.
Connie. Well, my friend Connie Owens made the costume, and I didn't like the hat she had her wear, but I like the costume.
And now he's trashing the costume because of the hat. Again, 30 years ago.
It was this
and he's
big,
holding this grudge against
it looked
this
like
hat.
a big bouffant hairdo thing, I think, with rats
yeah.
coming out of it. But
Rats
She-
But not only that, but Tyler.
she dragged
Tyler,
along little
Yeah.
sixth grader Tyler. You had a lot of little kids and munchkins. And he
there was also Tyler was my corner, and Dylan Cole.
Dylan Cole was the
my
mayor.
Mayor Munchkinland.
I believe Liz Romy was a Munchkin.
She was a Munchkin.
Maybe a Lullaby League. I don't know.
I just get a kick out of how you just can recall with no problem. Oh yeah, Tyler was this character,
and so Tyler
and Romy was this character.
That cast, I had 100 because we had open auditions.
I can't remember what I had for dinner last night. No. And you're like, this person's hat was terrible. I hated it.
We had 100. We opened it up to the whole school, and so we had Munchkins from all the different elementary schools. In the Springfield district, and then I had 50 high school kids and 50 kids from the various middle school and like Dorr and Stranahan and not Stranahan. What?
I don't know.
Dorr, Holloway, McCord.
No, McCord, Sylvania.
But the point is, you had 100 kids in this show.
It was 100 people. Chrissy, yeah.
And you managed to wrangle all.
Well, he had a lot of help.
I did. Yep.
You had wranglers.
Yeah. So Becky Heck was my assistant director, and Jen Devane was my choreographer. Yeah, and Crazy Me, I also decided to double cast all the lead characters.
You have spoken about double casting. I've heard you say.
So the four major, the Lion, the Tin Man, Scarecrow, and Dorothy, and as well as Glinda and
the Witch
and the Wicked Witch, where I double cast all of them.
And little Tyler, my little 6th grade Tyler, goes on to do all kinds of musical theater, goes to school for it, and that was my life from then on. So you started something, and
Tyler also did Music Man.
Yes, in 8th grade.
In the 8th grade,
Music Man.
He was one of the kids in the boys band.
There was a Madeline Sensenstein in these plays.
Yeah, Maddie. Yep, I had Maddie. Yep.
And
was she a Springfield girl?
Yeah.
Before she went to Toledo School of the Arts?
Yes,
I did not know that.
And
Maddie was one of my kids in Sound of Music.
Okay, so you neglected to say that name. Another person.
Maddie Sensenstein. Yeah, she was one of the. There's 5 daughters in Fiddler on the Roof, and she was the youngest daughter.
Oh, so little then, obviously.
I want to say she was Bielka, but she might correct me on that one. She was either Sprinza or Bielka, and then she was also, I think she was Greta in Gretel.
Hansel and Gretel?
And
she was Hansel and Greta? What was this?
In Sound of Music.
Oh, okay. One of the many younger.
Yeah.
She was a Von Trapp child.
They had enough of them, yeah.
So Tyler does shows. So because of Tyler doing shows, because of you, I tried to do a show. So I audition my first time ever. I'm in my 40s or 50s. Never done a show in my life. I auditioned for Titanic.
Titanic, the musical.
Scared as could be in auditions. And I'm going, and they cast me as one of the named characters,
Edgar.
and I have to sing. And I'm going, what kind of a stupid director is this that would risk a show on me being able to do this? But it turned out, and I've done 5 shows since. But
you were Edgar Bean.
Edgar Bean. That was a cast
you
of
were
thousands.
Hilarious in that show.
You're a middle class henpecked husband.
So at Springfield, you might have been one of the first to do Les Mis when it came out.
Yeah, we were one of the first. I think Perrysburg had beat it. Perrysburg always beat us to everything, but Perrysburg did it the year before we did it.
Yeah, let's go get Perrysburg and TP them or something.
But I knew I had the kids for it because that was like Brian Carlucci's senior year, and he was Valjean. It was Melissa's senior year, and she was Eponine.
You had Chris Kaiser.
I had Chris
this
Kaiser.
Is turning into the Springfield show. We got to get back to 3D.
Now.
Yeah, I don't care about.
So we're leaving Springfield.
Yeah. So you're back in Waterville, and so you just decide there's not enough theater groups in the area. I'm going to start my own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at that time, there weren't a lot of theater groups in Toledo. You're talking 16 years ago. Mm-hmm. There was basically the people doing musicals at that time were Waterville Play Shop, Oregon, and the Rep. And even Oregon and the Rep weren't doing as many as what they do now. Oregon and the Rep did a lot more plays. Now I feel like they're doing more musicals now, but or maybe that's just my perception of
Definitely Oregon, I feel like, has
but like
increased the
at that time,
musicals.
and Black Swamp Players only did one musical a year, and it was always in the winter.
Why was there so few? Did people just hate musicals? I mean, come on.
Well, you know, plays are cheaper. That's for sure.
Money, gotcha.
Plays are way cheaper to produce. They're cheaper to, you know, put on stage. You don't have to pay as many people. You know, musicals are expensive, very, very, very expensive. When like a cheap show for us is probably around $12,000.
Whoa!
And
What show's that?
That's cheap.
What show's that? Who's the cheap?
I can't even think. Well, we probably can do Rocky now for around 12,000.
Jeez.
Just because, you know, but you have rights and royalties. You have to pay musicians. You have to pay staff. You have to pay theater rental. You have to pay, you know, there's so much you have to pay. There's so much stuff you have to pay for that people never even see.
Yeah, but you don't have theater rental. I mean, he does. 3B does, but the rep doesn't. But they have to pay musicians. They have to pay the rights.
Musicians, rights and royalties. Yep.
So
just trying to figure out why they wouldn't have done more musicals. But what you're saying is, at a minimum, the rep would have to pay $12K just to get a musical in there, which means they have to fill that house up pretty full for week after week after week to get their money back. So that makes a lot more sense as to why they're going to say, "Nah, we're not going to do these."
And I mean, in a play you can put together. Well, I shouldn't say that because Jeff Albright might come in here and be like, "No, that's wrong." But like, I feel like with a play too, you don't have to rehearse for as long. Mm-hmm. With a play, you know, usually 4 to 6 weeks, you're good. With a musical, you know, it's usually 6 to 8 because you have to add in that 2 weeks of just plugging out music. You know, like and 3B I know probably does it different than other people, but you know, when Janine and I get together, what we always do is we try to get music for about the first 2 weeks, just really plug the music.
Yes, it's
hit
brutal.
The parts, hit the music because it gets in your head then, and you can start to work on your own. You can listen to the soundtrack and do it on your own. You know, and then usually that's when I start then Bob steps in and Bob starts to do choreography to the music, you know, and then I step in and I start blocking it so that, you know, logically all this stuff is coming together.
So a month after the show started, the director shows up.
You know, and I mean, it works for us, you know, and like, you know, I love working with Janine and Bob because I call them my dream team because we kind of read each other's minds, and you know, there's been rehearsals where like I literally looked at Janine and I'm like, and I can see her face and I'm like, I know what you're gonna say, and she's like, and I'm like, yep. And it's like I know exactly what she's going to be like. We need to change this, or so and so has to sing this differently.
It's an amazing chemistry you guys can have. Like you're the director of the show, but obviously you trust Janine.
And
you trust Bob,
and it's
so you don't need to step in any sooner than you need to.
They are the new 3B, Bob.
Yeah.
Bob and Janine, yeah. Well, Jesse's still around, so you know, it's me and Jesse, and then when Gary passed away, you know, we're like, well, we got to kind of figure out. Janine has kind of been our 3B, you know, for a while, but you know,
and
we have Becky Heck.
So you start, you break away, and you start. How do you start? A theater company.
And was it Civil War their first show?
Civil War was the very first show in 2005. We did that. I think we did that in April or May. I can't remember which. And we had zero money, no money.
Oh, that's helpful.
So Gary, out of the goodness of his heart, Gary bankrolled the whole first show. You know, so he paid for everything. And we found a theater in Toledo called it's an abandoned school over on Hill in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. But they do like rehearsals in there for like barbershop and.
It's like an artsy building.
Yeah, it's an artsy building, and they have gardens outside.
I know what it is now. Yeah, it's Collingwood Art Center now, I think.
No, it's not Collingwood Art Center.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's got a garden, though, and I wish I could remember what it's called.
It's on Hill in Pennsylvania. And we had been gifted old blue velvet drapes. I don't even know from whom. I can't even remember why we had them, but we had old blue velvet drapes. And the guy that was running that center over on Hill in Pennsylvania, I wish I remember that. It's called something school, that like the Truman School or something like that. But anyways, he said, I will let you guys do your show here for free if you can get me curtains for my windows. And so we were like, deal. So Gary and I went and we like cut up all those blue velvets and drapes, and we made them all new drapes for their windows. And we got to perform. We did our first 2 shows there.
So your trade was to make curtains?
Our trade was to make curtains.
That's how they started 3B. Wow.
And like on our final dress rehearsal, the whole cast stayed and we swept the auditorium and cleaned it and cleaned the bathrooms because it's not the I feel like I'm saying something bad. It wasn't the cleanest place, but so we decided to clean it up and but we made enough money then to have another show and eventually pay Gary back. And
so it was a success. So the first show
was a success.
You actually made money on.
Yep.
Because it didn't cost you anything to have the facility, probably, except for curtains.
Well, we didn't have to pay for the theater, and we only used a piano. We only used like a real small pit, like a piano and like a banjo. Because like, if you ever heard the music from the Civil War, it's very like
saloon.
Not saloon, but
saloon.
Like like you would need a banjo because there's like some old school music in there. I don't know how else to say that, but like we had a real small, but we had about 20 people in the cast, 25 people in the cast, but it was really fun.
See, but that sounds like a show to me that I would be worried about. Is this going to make a profit? Because you weren't like I'm going to do Disney's Little Mermaid. We know that one's going to make $1 billion. That's not what you did. You said, I'm going to do Civil War. And we're going to risk it all.
But people came. I know. I was so shocked. And I had, I had Springfield kids in that one. I had like Danny Ferguson was in it, and
see, Joe's a name dropper, and I love it.
Yes,
drop all the names.
Gosh, Danny Ferguson and Cece Ferguson, his sister, were in it, and gosh, I know I had another.
Okay.
Sean Kazmerzak.
I just think that so you guys, Jesse and Gary and you were like, screw it, let's just risk it all, huh? But really, it sounded like Gary risked it all.
It was because I didn't at the time. Jesse and I didn't have those kind of funds.
Gotcha.
But Gary, Gary was had the shop at that time. Mm-hmm. He had Costumes Ltd. He was doing Christmas decorating for like everybody in Toledo, like the Toledo Club and everything. And he also had a pool business. So he kind of had more access to money at that time. So he bankrolled it. But we paid it. We were able to pay him all of it back, and then
it started to grow.
And it started to grow.
And were all the profits his to begin with?
After a couple years, you moved?
After 2 years, then we moved to Maumee Valley Country Day School. And we did 2 years of shows at Maumee Valley Country Day School. And
they have a great theater there.
I love that theater. The only problem with that theater is load in and load out as a bear.
I thought maybe the only problem would be older people. Do they have handicap access there now? Because it's kind of scary.
It's steep.
It's very steep.
I love it. I love doing it. But if I were somebody who was a little bit unsure of my footing, I might be like, somebody hold my hand as I go down. I don't.
We did and there we did one of my favorites that 3B's ever done. We did Little Women, the musical. Which I
do love that one.
Love that show.
There's something wrong with me. I see the musical. I've seen every version of the movie. I just love it.
I did too. I love the story.
Yeah, I love everything.
I think it's female empowerment before we even knew what that term meant.
I don't know. I just think there's so much love in that show.
Yeah. And the sisters are great.
So many of them that have a different kind of love throughout the show that I'm just drawn to it. So I'm a softie, obviously.
The women were. My cast was great. Period. But I had like Libby Bruno, Libby Valou now, and Sarah Petit, and
I'm glad you pronounced Libby's name because I've never known how to say her last name. Valou?
I think it's Valou or Valou.
Oh, now you're just guessing too. Great.
I'm guessing. Sorry, Libby, if I got it wrong. And I'm sorry I said Bruno. I apologize. Yeah. But I knew Libby since she was Libby Call. So
there you go.
Because I had Libby in Les Mis when I did the teen Les Mis for Fountain City Festival out in Bryan. Or no, not Fountain City. Williams County Community Theater hired me to go out there and do an all-teen Les Mis out there for them out in Bryan.
How many times have you done that show?
A lot.
Les Mis, I've done 5. Let's see. Springfield, WCCT.
Aren't you sick of certain shows?
I've done it 4 times.
Aren't you sick? But see, that's the thing is that was me. So now I'm going to gush about Joe and how he got here. And that was my first show that I saw was Les Mis.
Changed. That's why we're sitting here.
Right. So it was the teen version.
And Ron
saying, go see this company called 3B. Just Don't worry about the name.
And Tyler was
yeah.
Ross.
So my experience is just little country schools. I've never seen any of these things. So I go to I go to it thinking it's going to be a show that you would see at Lakota. Or I hope Miss Adams doesn't hear this ever. No, she didn't do any musicals when I was there, so it wasn't a problem. So she can't take any problem with it. But it was I didn't know. So I go and I see this, and this like. First thing I noticed, I pull out the program. I'm looking at the names of the people. I don't know any of these kids, obviously, but I read what they're doing because it takes a damn long time for the show to start. So I'm by myself and I'm reading everything. I'm like, well, this person is playing a street urchin, and they were the lead in their show and the lead. I'm like, what the hell? What's going on here? And then I go down to the next one. Oh, they're playing just this random factory worker girl, and they're the lead, and they're the lead. I'm like, these kids are just nothing in this show, are leads in all of their schools. What the hell am I going? And then the show starts. I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay. I see what's going on here.
You started crying.
I may have cried a little. Yeah. I was blown away. And I was like, what is this? So that was my first experience with 3B.
No, that was an amazing group.
So then I came home and I told Holly, I said, Ron was right. Maybe we should look into doing some stuff with Gabe, because at that time Gabe was so tiny and he had shown some interest in doing stuff, but we didn't know where to go.
Did some workshops, summer workshops?
Yeah, we did nothing. No, it was nothing.
Your kids did the 3B summer workshop.
Yes.
Well, that was after we had already been with 3B. So that doesn't count. I'm talking like he did like nothing. And he just had done little acting things here and there. And so when Ron said, why don't you look at these guys? It was like, oh, yes. And so then we brought him, and he was, luckily, you had decided to do Seussical, which needed little kids. And I was like, oh, that's perfect timing. What are the odds? Because you could have done anything. I mean, you really could have done Civil War. And it would have been like, well, that's it. I guess he's never doing a show.
It was meant to be.
Yeah.
And the next summer was?
I don't know.
Ragtime.
Oh
yeah,
glad you know what shows my kids were in.
Yeah.
But it was just a series of things that just happened to work out. So that's where we were at.
Well, I mean, I've always been fortunate, especially with the summer shows, when we do the summer teen show. And you probably heard me say this before the show, but I am so fortunate because Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan, we are so incredibly blessed with the education of the kids in this area. There are so many amazing programs. I mean, I could list 10 amazing programs, and these kids learn so much from their school directors, and they come in and they know so much already, and it just makes the summer show so good. And then when you put, the top 2 or 3 kids from 14 different schools together, you end up with this mega musical.
What I saw.
You have 14 to 20 high schools represented.
Yeah, we've had, I think on the low end we've had 14. On the high end we had 24, but 24 was Les Mis.
Les Mis.
So, gotcha.
Oh my goodness. All these kids coming together as one.
Yep.
Wow.
And I always think, they're not going to like each other and blah, blah, blah. And like every year they love each other. They're within 2 or 3 rehearsals, they're best friends. I just love how connected they all. And there's so many of them are still friends to this day.
Oh, and that's a beautiful thing, because our kids, and all of them, I'm sure, they go out and they support each other then. So, so-and-so's doing the lead in their high school show.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they get a bunch of kids coming from Southview and Northview and Anthony Wayne and Perrysburg coming to go see a Toledo School for the Arts show because they all know this guy. And that's because of these summer. So how many big summer shows were there when you started? Or were you one of the biggest?
When I started, it was just us and the Rep.
So the Rep was the only one doing
The Rep was the only one doing a summer show besides us. And now I feel like kind of everyone is doing a summer show now. Not that it's a bad thing, but and I think it's good because kids that do theater, they don't get that outlet in the summer because, there was, usually school was their theater outlet, and without school in session, they don't have that opportunity, and so at first that's why we started it, because there were so many kids in our area, like the Waterville, Maumee, Sylvania, out that way, our area, in the west, west of Toledo, that didn't have the opportunity that some of the kids that, like the Catholic school kids and the TPS kids, and, they did the Rep show, because they lived around here and they could,
Gotcha.
It was, the kids out in that area, now more of them are doing the rep show.
You have to drive 45 minutes to get into rehearsal.
Bowling Green, Anthony Wayne,
yeah,
Perrysburg.
And I mean, but our draw now is so, we have kids from I had kids driving in from Bryan, Ohio for Les Mis, and this year I had a kid drive all the way from Erie, Michigan, just to do our summer show. So I've had kids from Findlay drive from just to do the show. So
one interesting summer show you did was Bang Bang You're Dead.
Oh yeah,
that was a
summer 3B show.
It wasn't a musical.
It wasn't a musical. It was the only 3B summer show that we did that was a play.
Oh. What's that? I don't even know what that is.
I was chair.
Quickly,
I was conference chair that year for Ohio Community Theater Association. I was conference chair that year, and when you're conference chair, you are dealing with a lot of stuff. There's just so much stuff going on. And at Springfield, we had done Bang Bang You're Dead prior to that as a play at Springfield, as a winter play actually. And I wanted to do that one because I knew that I had the kids that could do it and put it together. And that was going to be our summer show that year. And we did it at the
a church,
the Garden Park Christian Church
on Garden
Road, yeah. Which now it's no longer Garden Park Christian Church. And that Tyler was my lead in that.
Yes,
he? Yeah. Tyler was. Yeah,
he was a mass murderer. He was a high school.
It was about school shootings.
Yeah,
and it's like about. So the mass murderer gets confronted by all the kids that he has murdered.
Oh.
And then it's like kind of a psychological, and he has to deal.
Sounds like something right up Actors Collaborative. I mean,
it's very
show.
ACT. Yeah, very ACT.
They should do that show for sure. I mean, it just seems.
And we won at state that year, so the kids got to perform it at state OCTA then.
Very cool.
Yeah, and we've won now. Our OCTA junior kids, we've won every year we've entered except for two times. And the one time we got alternate, and the other time we did not get awards, or we got awards, but we did not get an invitation.
And it was bullshit both times.
The one time when we were alternate, we probably should have been the winner.
Oh my gosh!
No names, please.
But the other time that we didn't, it was very young talent. The cast wasn't as seasoned as we normally have. Let's put it that way.
Now, 3Bs has gone on to do some tougher shows, not a family-friendly show, you might say. Spring Awakening and
Avenue Q,
things like that.
So our goal has always been to do something new or rarely done, because there are some old gems out there that are really good that people just don't do. So we try to do something new or rarely done, and to me, it doesn't really matter even if it's risque. I'm okay with doing it because
might make money, might not.
It might make money, it may not. To be honest with you, most of our shows, if at the very least they break even, which that sucks because then you
don't have any money to get the next show.
But so we've always tried to push the bar a little bit. I feel like lately we've kind of let off on the gas on that a little bit, only because now again, I feel like we are the trendsetter. So now I feel like other theater groups now are all kind of doing the edgy stuff too, and I'm like, well,
Right, you have the issue box, you have the cutting edge.
You started it. So. They were copycats.
So so I feel like we've done Rocky for 5 straight years. This was our last time we were going to do it, though. We're not going to do it again. But and Rocky in itself is very risque to do. It's such a it's such bad, it's kind of one of those shows where everyone's cussing.
That's the first time that my son went and saw it, so I'm glad he got to be able to go see it. If it was the last time,
it's our last time we're going to do it. Because Janine, we've done it for 5 years, and Janine and I were both like,
just moving on. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like you've done it for so long, you have all these shows. They're just some shows you're like, I'm not gonna do that anymore because I'm just so sick. Like Les Mis, I've done it 5 times.
Right.
What do I need to do it again for? And not to mention you've done it 5 times. How many times have you seen the show outside.
Well, I love Les Mis. I see Les Mis
okay.
anytime, anywhere. I love Les Mis, but I kind of want to do Les Mis again only because
Oh, you're sick. There's something wrong with you, man.
I have a new concept that I want to do with it. I have a new concept, and I want to do it with this new concept. But I'm not sure if people are ready for a new concept or not. I don't know.
Why not?
And In the Heights, Les Mis, I gave it away.
Kind of.
Are you serious? Ron just threw that out, and it actually hit a little bit?
Yeah.
That's weird.
So in the next year or so, what's happening with 3B?
Well, we're doing the fundraiser that Ron's going to be in part of our fundraiser. We're doing
All together now?
What?
Yeah, we're doing a fundraiser with the Village Players right around the corner from you here.
Somebody asked you to do something, Ron?
Yeah, I know. It's like I'm a guy. I show up and I get the part. I get that a lot.
That's cool.
Yeah, we're doing that. It's called All Together now.
Well, I'll be there, obviously.
It's a fundraiser
given to you free.
Yeah, so MTI sent us out. We were gonna. So 3B was gonna do it, and we were like, we were looking around like, can we do it? Like, what church would let us?
You got a book? What is that? What do you got there?
It's my
your notes.
No, it's my calendar.
Oh, he's got his calendar.
I'm old school. I still use one of these.
He's got a written piece of paper.
It's not
that
a
he
phone.
calls a calendar.
It's not.
So the village, the show that we're doing with the Village is All Together now, and it's November 12th, 13th, and 14th.
You gonna get Barbara in here? I've asked her a couple of times. She's
oh my
dodging
gosh,
me.
Barbara's in Florida right now.
Oh, she keeps dodging me. She's like, I'm gonna call you tomorrow, and then nothing. I'm like, oh, okay, well.
So Dave and Barbara are kind of producing
I'll get her number from you, so I'll call her. So then she
Facebook message. She's a messenger.
Well, that's what I do. I message her, and she does respond, but then it like goes away, and I'm like, oh.
I think she's in Key West. If I
keep harassing certain people, like, hey, come on, and they're like, yes, and then nothing.
Well, the reason why I didn't say yes till now is because like I had like went from one thing to the next, and like now it's like kind of like I have breathing.
Oh yeah, you were one of those people.
Although now I just joined Matilda with Play Shop. I'm doing Matilda, and they needed some people.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just in
to sing in the pit.
Gotcha.
So I'm gonna be a pit singer.
Oh, you're not even gonna be on stage ever? Just in the background
I love it.
singing?
I just get to sit there with my book. So Darrell, Johnson, one of my good friends, Darrell, who's our narrator usually, in 5 years, he's been our narrator in Rocky. Darrell's been in probably
with no
30
neck.
shows.
Right, yeah.
But Darrell and I are two of the basses.
Yeah.
So we're singing that one, and the music's really hard. I mean, it's hard music.
Is it? Okay. I think it's easy when I hear it in my headphones. I just sing along with it. But that's just me. I'm just singing. I don't have to actually sound
It is really
good,
deceptive. You would think, this is really, oh my gosh.
Miracle's really hard.
Oh,
that one.
I can't sing that one. It's a miracle.
Well, and now that I'm deaf in my right ear.
Oh.
And my hearing aids, I broke my hearing aids, so they've been sent out to be fixed. So hopefully they'll be done tomorrow. So I'm trying to listen with my good ear, and I'm always like, oh my gosh, can you just play blah 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 for me, because I can't when they play all the parts, I just can't hear it
going on. Yeah. I get that.
So so that'll be fun. So I'm doing Matilda, and then right after that, on 12th through the 14th, we're starting in beginning of November, and we're gonna get together and do that. And Janine's going to music direct.
What is 3B doing?
So we have applied. We do not have the rights.
That's okay. We can talk about it.
I have to make it official that we do not have the rights. But March is our March show. We want to try to do Chicago.
Oh, people like that show. See?
Yeah, I love Chicago. Chicago's one of my favorites. I love it.
And then what do you want to do after that? Summer, you got a summer teen show?
So our May show.
Oh, there's a May show.
Our May show's in jeopardy because normally we do all of our shows at the indoor. Well, the indoor is blocked out in May. So we're trying to find a home. So we don't want to make an announcement on anything until we know where we're going to be.
Oh, make it anyway. Come on, man.
Well, we don't have anything to announce because what show, we don't know the space and we don't know how many people it fit, and who knows what's going to be going on with COVID at that time. So you could say
we're doing a giant show and then you got to do it in a little
small. Like I don't want to be like, we're not doing it, but like for example, I would love to be like, oh, we're going to do Les Mis, and then we're in a theater that with
an octa
seats 100 people.
Yeah, seats 100. That'd be bad. Yeah.
So May is up and then next summer we're looking at 3 titles for next summer. We're looking at doing either the Addams Family, Mamma Mia, or what was the third one?
I don't know.
We put it out there. We put a poll out to the kids to let the kids decide.
It must not be the winner.
I can't even remember what
must
the
be one of the
is.
other two then, because you've forgotten it already.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I haven't looked at the poll in the while to see who's voted for what. So, and again, what we're trying to do is a show that their high school may not normally do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because, even though quite a few schools have done Mamma Mia,
Yeah,
it's I don't know how many schools.
And Adam's Family, though, too.
Yeah, and Adam's Family, too.
Clay did it. Evergreen just did it. So there's a few. Perrysburg is doing who's the one? Junior high. Yeah, I'm saying there's a couple that done it.
Well, it's weird, but I feel like we're getting to a point now where our goal, our mission statement of new or rarely done it's hard because
harder and harder.
Everyone is now doing new and rarely done. Jesse and I were just talking the other day, and I said it's weird because I feel like hardly anybody is doing like Oklahoma or
nobody's done Oklahoma.
South Pacific or Brigadoon or
no, none of those.
Which were the shows that I started out with. Like when I was Gabe's age, that's all the shows that we did.
Guys and Dolls.
We did Guys and Dolls and Oklahoma.
But there's been a million shows that have come out since then.
Yeah, but I just feel I know this is going to sound really weird coming out of my mouth, but I feel like we are missing out on an opportunity because the younger generation isn't getting a chance to do some of those classics. Because when I was at Springfield, like when I turned into the two musicals a year program, when we turned the program into that, I always tried to do a traditional musical and a new show. So every year we had an old show and a new show, old show, new show. And that helped because then the kids also got to do some of the older stuff. The Sound of Musics, the Guys and Dolls, that kind of stuff. And then, we also did Thoroughly Modern Millie and Into the Woods.
Into the Woods, Thoroughly Modern, yeah.
So we were always trying to do like the old school and a new show so that the kids got a chance to do both.
Gotcha. Let's say TSA had a pattern of doing that. I don't know if they're still doing that, but it was similar where they would do a classic show, then they do a modern show. So they were doing Oliver, and then they would do Catch Me If You Can.
Right.
And then they'd go back and they would do a classic show, and then they'd do a new show.
I don't know if the kids want to do the old shows either, so it's one of those weird things.
I don't think they do.
I don't know.
I mean, there's certain shows out there that's just like they seem to clamor for like, when can we do Dear Evan Hansen? When can we do Beetlejuice? When can we do Mean Girls? They're not interested in doing the Bye Bye Birdies or the Oklahomas but I will say that to an extent, that's kind of the old classic musical theater's fault. They seem to always cast these like Oklahoma. What guys in high school or younger people are going to be able to play Curly? That's a grown-ass man doing that role. It's like...
Yeah. But it's just really good training for them. And vocally, I will say this too, vocally, and Janine, when she hears this, probably will be correcting me, but like vocally, I feel like they will learn more vocally with the old shows. The new shows, I feel like, are all very like high kind of like pop rock.
Yeah, I get that, but at the same time, if you're talking about high school kids, most of them aren't going to care about training. They just want to have fun, right? I mean, am I incorrect in thinking that? I mean, the majority of them aren't going to go out and
they want to
Broadway.
have fun. I don't know. I just feel like even though I'm not a teacher, the teacher in me, teacher mind in me says, I also want them to learn something, from the show. I want them to learn something from the show. And I feel like some of the newer shows, they're not learning as much because I don't know. It's weird because I'm a new show person. I love to do the new shows. So I guess I'm conflicted myself.
Yeah, it's hard to relate though to something like Oklahoma or
Seven
Brides or Seven Brothers when there's Be More Chill.
Right.
They can look at that and be like, I like that kind of thing, or I can do this other kind of, Heathers. I like the angst or that kind of stuff. So it's hard to compete when you're like, well, that's kind of old and lame. But see, that's where Ron and I come from. Ron and I come from the old area where that's what I thought musicals were. So when I started to see new stuff, that's probably why I like the new stuff better, because I'm like, that's what musicals are.
And the new stuff is also more relatable.
Yes.
Because everything is now written way more relatable.
Yeah, because there was so much, I feel like, fake shit, I guess. It's like, really? this is again Oklahoma and 7 by 7. It's like this is all this like really over the top stuff. You're like, what in the? It's all cheesy, So I kind of like
there is a lot of cheese.
I can't handle that as opposed to you watch Fun Home and you see this real struggle with like real like you see a real situation there. Like, oh, I can kind of see that why that's tough. Yeah, I get that.
But I mean, I guess I have a nostalgia for it because like when I was a little kid growing up in Grand Rapids, Ohio, no one did musical theater. No one did it.
That sounds
it would
familiar.
just nobody. I mean, I grew up in a football family.
Oh yeah.
Like football, God, and sports.
Of
like that was pretty much all.
Like 80% of the people I went to school with did some sort of athletics because that's what you did.
And so when Janine came to Otsego, she brought like a new thought process to a lot of people in Otsego.
Right.
And then a lot of people, then it became football and music, and the musical was the big thing at Otsego. We always did the musical was really big. And that's where I got my start was doing musicals, at Otsego. Before then, all I'd ever done is sing in church,
Right. No, that's what I
did. Like,
choir
my mom,
in school.
My mom did the Christmas pageant. My mom usually directed the Christmas pageant where we all wore crowns and we went up and had a piece and, and we all sang in the Christmas cantata and that kind of stuff.
It's all about exposure though. It's exactly that.
Right.
So Janine coming into town opened up not just you, but the whole town.
Oh yeah,
honestly,
our whole community.
Whole community. So like even like with me, I grew up with all football and sports and all that kind of stuff. But now I still talk to some of my, my family, obviously, and my friends from back then, and I've exposed them to, hey, this is what is involved. This is what there is, and they've been pretty open minded about it. Like, oh, I guess I never really ever thought about this before because I've just been too busy watching Ohio State every week.
Right. Well, and I mean, my mom and I, we used to watch on PBS. Remember when PBS they used to do like that's the first time I ever saw Carousel and Music Man and Oklahoma and Brigadoon. We would watch. My mom and I would watch them, on PBS. Where like my dad was like, with my brothers outside.
Why isn't the boxing match?
We're gonna go cut the tree down or whatever. And I was in with my mom watching the musicals.
Oh, did he maybe have an inkling back then?
Well, I would always like be in the house like because I have 3 older brothers,
right.
And so for me like. They didn't really need me. You know what I mean? It was like if Dad needed help was. So I was
the
always
fifth wheel, man.
So I was always in the house with my mom, helping my mom, like pick this up or do this or whatever. And so we'd have when we were doing work around the house, we'd have on like Music Man or
Wow.
But that's back when PBS used to do on Saturday or Sunday afternoons. They used to do the musical. But then I was also into sports too because I was why would I be a college cheerleader? This is what we're doing here.
This is what we do on these podcasts. So the point is that we have conversations.
Yeah.
And the problem with Joe being here is we know this guy too well.
And there's so many different directions we could go.
Yeah, we're just talking in circles here, having a good time because we could just seriously do this with Joe, unfortunately. So we're at some point we're gonna have to cut this off because we'll be here forever. I'm afraid.
Probably the most amazing week of my life was recently. This was pre-COVID. I went to New York and I was able to see 2 kids that used to do shows with me, both on Broadway. One was in A Band's Visit and the other one was in Head Over Heels. But it was so awesome because, like I got to see them doing their thing on Broadway. And I mean, they both of them had amazing high school directors. So I'm not saying, but it was like, but both of them had done shows with me. I felt like I was a small part of them getting there, but of course, they had great high school directors and they both went to wonderful programs for college. So, but it was great to see them. It was like so cool to see 2 kids, I'm saying kids and they're grown women, but on Broadway, they made it. They went all the way. They went all the way to Broadway. And, I'm like sitting there in the audience just watching them, with like, and the first time that I got to see Melissa Grahowski do Grisabella, I mean, when she's out there belting Memory, I was like, tears are just rolling down my face because it's like, I remember these kids coming in and auditioning either for Springfield or for a community theater group, and it's like now they're out there and they're doing professional shows, It's just so gratifying to see them make it. And I'm also so proud too. The converse of that is to see like the kids that didn't decide to go professional, who very well could have, because there's so many kids that didn't go pro that I was like, man, if this kid goes pro, they're going to make it. But they chose a different life path, and that's okay. And they're doing great in their career path. They're teachers, and they're getting their masters, and they're getting married and having babies, and a lot of them still do community theater. In this last show, I had 3 former Springfield kids in my show. There's probably not a show that I do that I don't have a former Springfield kid in my show. So that, to me, and I haven't been in Springfield now for 10 years, 11 years. So I guess that's my legacy, is that I've introduced so many kids to community theater and to theater, and hopefully then they in turn will introduce more kids to theater. I hope it's a lifelong process. And I think, and not to like name drop, but like with Melissa, I think there's a lot of that because, now Melissa's working at TSA and touching lives. Hopefully she's taking that, fostering those kids and bringing, and it's just like that generational thing, showing like my passion and love for theater, and now has passed on to that person, and hopefully they'll, so that when I'm 70, I can come back with my cane and be like, I remember back in '05 when, but yeah.
I didn't know that was the role that Melissa had. I knew she was in Cats, but I didn't know she had that effing role. Are you kidding me?
Well, she did like several roles.
Okay.
Because she toured with Cats for like 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I know she did like Grisabella. The production that I saw was she was Grisabella. But I know she also did Jenny Anydots and a couple other roles, I think. When you get Melissa in here for her podcast.
Which apparently I need to.
Yeah, you definitely need to get Melissa. She's great. She's awesome. And
I
she's just so good. And
that's there. You've already said it too, but we have so many people to tap into here.
Oh yeah, there's so many people.
When Ron and I were going into this, it's like, okay, there's this and this and this and this. We're like, okay, this is a real thing, man. There's enough people out there in this area that love theater as much as we do, if not like a billion times more. So let's do it, man. Let's just do it. So,
then like this past year, I'm sure you saw it on Facebook, and like getting awards, like I never thought I would get awards for doing community theater. Of course we get OCTA award, we go because we compete and we perform, and that's the reason why we get so many awards. But like when I got the American Association of Community Theater award, the AACT award, I was like, what? This is like a national award? And I thought, oh, they must give one for every state, And so like, of course I Google right away and I'm like, oh, they only gave out 2 of these this year. So I'm one of 2 people that got this award, and then like the Ohio Assembly sent me a proclamation and everything. I was like, what is going on? So I've been doing this since the 90s, so I guess it's 30 years, but
flew by though, huh?
It has flown by.
Yeah. Again, I've known you for so long. I know it's like you've seen Tyler grow up. He was 11. You've seen Gabriel and my daughter Emma grow up.
Yeah.
Emma's going to Ohio State. It's like you've seen these kids grow up and do all these things. So when Ron asked you what your legacy is and what 3B's legacy is, because it's not just you, like you said, it's Jesse.
Yeah.
It's Gary, it's Janine,
it's Gary
it's
and
Bob,
Jesse,
it's all these people that have Becky Heck and Cole, Becky Cole. There's there's so many
Becky
people
Heck,
that have been a part of 3B. The Minces, can't forget the Minces.
Yep.
They were
Angie,
a big part. It's like there were so many people. The Kinneys, they touched. There's so many people whose lives you've touched.
And Beth and Sarah just helped on this last show.
Sarah did too. I didn't know.
Sarah
that.
came in and she was our lighting tech.
See, I didn't even know that. But see, then you have
and the styles. Alan and Karen and Joelle and
Jeffrey Mintz is doing what?
That's right. Jeffrey
doing
Mintz
lighting. Exactly.
Yeah, he's doing lighting at Ohio, Cincinnati.
It's Cincinnati. No big deal.
Yeah,
Cincinnati. Just Cincinnati. One of the best.
One of the best programs in the nation.
Yeah, one of the best programs for behind the scenes stuff too. So it's
legacy.
Like all these people that are doing these things are because like when we seen you do a show, let's be honest, I could have gone and seen Les Mis and it could have been a shit show. Could have been a storm of crap that I was like, well, this is why he's not doing this.
And we would be doing a football podcast.
Yes,
right
exactly. We'd be doing a fantasy football podcast instead. But no, instead I went and I saw a production was like, holy moly, that's what this can be. This is something that, yes, Gabriel should look into doing this. And then because of that, other people got recruited my daughter was like, I don't want to do that. Oh, wait, maybe I do want to do that. So she started and found a love for it. So even just, these little things like, she's not doing it now, like you said, but she had a great time doing it when she did.
Right.
And she'll probably come back to it because that's what happens with theaters. You love it so much, you come back to it. So
and I love it when people, and I'm just using Ron as an example, but like Ron, raised his family and was working and, and late in this, you said you're in your late 40s,
it was
decided to
50s,
come back.
50s.
Like,
I'd never done theater, but 50s.
I think that's awesome though, that you took that leap of faith and were like, I'm going to just do this,
And now you're going to be directing me in Guys and Dolls and
well, just a scene.
a scene.
Well, again, your legacy is that we started a podcast.
Yeah,
That's insane.
And that some 60-year-old guy is getting parts.
I know. I don't want to downplay everybody else out there and all their directing and all their great theaters and everything, but it was Joe who introduced my family to theater. It was Joe who introduced Ron's theater to family. So we will always have a special place for Joe in our hearts.
Well, and likewise, I had great mentors as well. Gary was a mentor. Gary was one of the first people I met at Waterville Play Shop, and Sam Acera, who's in his 90s, and he doesn't direct anymore, but he still goes out and he sees shows, and and Janine was my high school mentor, and
Janine, she still seems like she's like 45. I don't know what's up with her.
And I had great college mentors, and one of my college instructors was Dr. Barbara Lockard Zimmerman, and she's passed away. But she used to take us from her studio and do her shows back in the day. And she was a major opera star in her day, and she sang backup for
Pavarotti.
No, Judy Garland. She did. She was a backup singer for Judy Garland in New York.
May have heard of her.
So she's she did so much, but she was one of those people that installed the love of community theater. And then Bob Hastings, again, who's passed away, but he with Black Swamp Players, who would call me constantly and be like, I have a role for you. And when I was able to do it, I would just go do a role for him. I had all these people that were really big influencers. And
so is 3B just going to fade off into the sunset someday?
Probably someday. The older I get, the harder it gets. Running a production company is totally different than just going and doing a show. Because it's you're constantly got to book the theater, book the show, get the staff, and then on Jesse's end, it's like he's got to then take my set ideas and he's got to pre-build the set and find the lighting guy and find the sound guy and find the sound effects and and then jointly, and then he does like all the tickets and all that stuff, and I'm doing props and costumes. So it's a lot of work.
Gotcha.
And you don't get a lot of help. You know what I mean? Like people always say, give me a call, I'll help you. And you give them a call and you're like, oh, I'm busy. So it's, oh, never mind. Sometimes I've just learned it's easier just to do it on my own, just to get it done. Especially costume wise, I just get it done and, but, I would say maybe a couple years and then you're
going to slowly cut back on shows.
Probably cut back on shows.
Not doing Rocky. So there's one down.
We're not going to do Rocky anymore. Yeah.
So just ease it back. Just like you eased in probably, right? Eased in. Now it's going to ease back.
And here's the thing. There's so many theaters now. Because back when we started 3B, we were one of 5 groups. And since then, there's
like 20.
Like 5 more groups have popped up, and it's like we're competing for people big time now, which I never wanted it to be that way. And I hate it that we have to kind of compete for talent around here. Because back in the day, we all did everyone's shows. Like we would just go from the rep show to the village show to the play shop show to the, we would all vagabond to these shows.
Now everybody has 4 shows a year, so
it makes it hard.
Yeah, great for the fans of theater like Ron and I.
Right.
Great for the performers to have options. Hard for the companies to
it is. It's very hard, and it's hard, and I think it's hard because a lot of these people, have full-time jobs, so it's hard for them to keep that pace up as well. So I feel like if we slow down our pace, some of these people might get a break a little bit. And I never planned to do this forever anyways. Had we made it past the first show, I would have been happy, but obviously we've been able to build on it for 15 years. So